Hi everybody, Cynthia here. I am back to share the tutorial to put together an 8x8, this 8x8 recipe folio. I shared with you guys in a previous video. I'm just going to open it up real quick. Okay, so we're going to do this. I'm not going to mat every single page because I kind of feel like I can give you the mat dimensions for like the flip pages, and then you guys can mat them on your own. Same thing with like these flip pages. You guys can mat those, and the flip pages here you guys can mat. I'm just gonna walk you through that, but I will mat other important pages because, you know, I'll mat this and then put the pocket on so you guys can see how I made my pocket. And we'll put the flip pages in here, and then we'll mat the page and do the pocket here. I'm putting it back together wrong, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're going to mat some. I'll give you the measurements for the rest. And let's get started. The paper that I used for that album and this one is Playing with Food by Recollections. This is kind of an old paper pad, and for those of you that have been watching me for a while, you guys know that I'm really trying to use up my stash. So I think I want to get some extra lighting. I don't know. Yeah, I think we have good lighting. Okay, so let's get started with the actual covers. I have everything cut up and measured and hopefully in order. Bear with me if I don't, to get this thing going. Okay, so right now I'm going to put 3 12x12 sheets of cardstock together, and we are going to be trimming some off, but you'll be able to use the excess pieces. So I'm using double-sided tape right on the edge of this 12x12 piece. And I'm going to peel this up. Now, not everything, I tried to back up my camera as best I could, so that you can see most of this, but sometimes the edges might be out of, out of view, but you guys should be able to see the important parts. Okay, so I have my double-sided tape right on the edge of this, and I'm going to overlap this 12x12 sheet right on top of that double-sided tape. And then press that down really well. Okay, so we've attached 2. Now we're going to go ahead and attach the third one. I also worked on another 8x8 album, and I kind of designed it a little different. Another 8x8 folio. And I designed it different because I had messed it up. But it came out really nice, and I'll share that with you in my next video. And I did use that B paper that I got from HSN. And it's not completely decorated, but I also used a ribbon closure for it, so I think it turned out kind of cute. But that'll be in my next video. I'll give you a little sneak peek at the end of this one. Okay, so we are going to overlap again right on top of that double-sided tape. Okay, so now we have our 3 pages stuck together. I'm going to pull this out of focus so we can kind of focus on this side here. We're going to get out our chipboard. You're going to need 3 8x8 pieces of chipboard. And you can lay them out if you want, so you can see what you're doing. I'm going to stay about 1.5 inches away from this edge and glue that down. You're also going to need one spine piece. That's going to measure 8 by 1 1/4. Then you have your 8 by 8 piece that's going to go here. Then you're going to need another spine that measures 8 by 1. And then we're going to put our last 8 by 8 sheet over there. Okay, so I'm going to get started laying this out. And I'm just using some art glitter glue. I love it. It has a nice fine tip. I'm going right on the edge. You can use double-sided tape here if you want. Entirely up to you. I just like to use my glue. Okay, I'm going to push out from the center with my bone folder. Make sure there's no bubbles in there. Get out all that excess glue, and then I'm just going to wipe the corners. Now we're going to glue our 8 by 1 1/4 spine, and I'm going to stay away from the chipboard a good 1/8 of an inch or more. You might want to give yourself a little more than 1/8 space, because when you go to bend these, you do not want your spine to crack. So I'm just going to line that up, and I have a nice good space in there, and make sure they're lined up this way. If not, I love when you use the liquid glue, because you could pull it up and it usually doesn't tear your paper. When I use double-sided tape, I end up tearing it. Okay, now we got our next piece, which is 8 by 8. Again, making sure I'm lined up on the top and the bottom, directly across, and I'm staying away a little more than 1/8 of an inch inside here, just a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to move this over, and we're going to get out our 8 by 1 inch spine. Line that up and stay a little more than 1/8 of an inch away from the other piece, and just make sure you're lined up on the top and the bottom. I usually just eyeball, I guess because I've been doing these for a while. Some people do go up a certain height and then draw a line across so that they know they're going to stay lined up with their chipboard all the way across. You could do that if you're newer to making albums like this and you're not sure if you could eyeball it straight across. You can definitely go up like 1.5 inches, draw a line all the way across your paper, and then just line your chipboard up that way as well. Okay, so we are going to have this excess piece here, but we're going to be trimming this off, and then you can use this scrap piece to make some photo mats and things for your album, so it won't go to waste. That looks pretty good. Just gonna press all of this down. Wipe off the excess. Okay, so now we're gonna do a little bit of trimming. Let me set this aside. So I'm gonna leave about 1.5 inches on this side. I just like to leave a little extra. It's better to have, some people just leave 1 inch, but I kind of feel it's better to leave a little extra and have a little extra coverage than not have enough. Okay, so what we're left with is this, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the corners. Now, one thing that I do from this corner here, you're going to want to stay about 1/16 of an inch away from the corner. So you don't want to cut directly on the corner. You want to leave a little piece of cardstock there, and I'll show you why in a second, because when you fold it up, you don't want to end up seeing any of your chipboard through there. So you definitely want to leave yourself a little tiny edge. Some people cut straight across, but I find that never really worked well for me. So I just kind of go in at an angle, go close to that corner of the chipboard, but I'm leaving myself a little bit of room, and then I angle it off. So I kind of make like a little triangle piece in here, and this is what my corner, you know, the piece looks like that I cut off. And I'm going to bring this close to the camera so you guys can see. I left a little bit of black cardstock there past that tip, and you want to do that for all 4 of your corners. So I'm going to angle in a little bit, make sure I leave enough on that corner space, and then angle up. Flip it around. See, this is the part where I said you're not going to see the whole thing because I couldn't get my camera adjusted to where you could see my entire desk and still be close enough to see what I was doing. So I'm going in at an angle, leaving a little bit of black cardstock right near that tip, and angle out. So it's kind of like a little pyramid. I'm going to do the last one here. Angle in, leaving a little bit on that edge, and angle out. I have tried to cut the corners straight, you know, straight up, but the piece that you have to leave here, I always ended up messing it up. So whatever works best for you, you have to try. Maybe you want to go straight. It's easier for you, then I totally suggest you do it. So I do have a little bit too much excess on this side, and I'm going to trim that off because we really don't need 2 inches of cardstock there. So now I'm going to get my tape runner. I'm using acid-free tape. Just in case, you know, some people like to use recipe albums for photo albums. You know, they just, like, at Christmas time when they're baking, or you're just in the kitchen baking with the family and cooking with the family, they want to add photos, so I want to make sure it's photo safe. So I'm going to add a little bit of tape along this edge, and then I'm going to run it all the way down on my chipboard on the edge, right up to this tip. I'm going to go in the middle all the way down, and then I'm going to go on the very edge of the black cardstock. The reason I go in the middle is so there's no bubbles in the middle. It doesn't lift or bubble when you go to bend it. And then I'm going to put double-sided tape right along this edge. Okay, so now it's time to fold this up. But I don't fold it up. I push down on mine and fold it over, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. A lot of people take, like, they'll take a ruler and they'll just press this up and run it along and then fold it over. I always mess mine up when I do it that way. So I found the easiest way to do it for me is to stand it up and push down. Okay, so we're pushing down on that chipboard so I know it's flat against the chipboard, and then I just fold it right over. I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to smooth it out. Make sure it's all smooth, and I'm kind of dragging it this way. Okay, and we're going to do a repeat on this side. Double-sided tape on the edge here. Run it all the way down my chipboard. All the way down the center. I think I'll put it on the corner while I have it down here. And then again, all the way down on the edge. When I used to try to push it up, I always ended up with a gap, or it would buckle in here. I could never get it. It just didn't work that way for me, so that's why I found this to be a lot easier. It's personal preference. You guys wrap your chipboard however you're more comfortable doing. Pardon me. Again, I'm going to lift this up, press down on the cardstock, and then bang my chipboard against my desk so I know it's nice and secure against my cardstock, and then flip it over. Again, I'm pushing, make sure it's nice and secure. I'm moving my bone folder from the edge in and down. Okay, so we got that nice and secure. If there's any extra edge here, say you cut too much on the point, just pop it in before you do this next step. Just kind of push it in a little. Okay. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing over here. Run it along your chipboard, middle, edge, and then your two angled cuts. Sorry, I'm trying to get around my camera. My camera pole. Press down nice and tight and flip it over. Run your bone folder over it. Same thing on this side. Run this all the way down, middle, edge, and your two angles. You could use glue, liquid glue, but I've always used double-sided tape. Maybe I'm just used to doing that, I don't know. Press down really nice and hard against the corners as well. Flip it over and move your bone folder over. Okay, so your 8 and 1 inch side should be to the right. This is your right page, your middle, and this is your left. Your left spine is 8 and 1 1/4 inches. Okay. We're going to cover our spine with 7 7/8 by 3 inches across, but before I do that, I want to start bending very gently. You want to bend your spine. You want to get it started before you cover this side of your spine. Oh, that went really well. So it's going to cover like this. You kind of want to have these lines here so that when you put your spine pieces on, you can center them. And that's what we're going to do here. 7 7/8 by 3 inches wide. I like to put it on the edge, and then I like to put some in the spine and then some on each side of the spine. And I'm going to try and center that best I can. Wipe off the excess. Run my bone folder over it. Push out any kind of air bubbles. I'm going to let that dry before I bend it. Let's move over to the next spine. I put it on the very edge here. The nice thing about watching tutorials from all kinds of different people is everybody has their own little way of doing things, and you can pick up some tips and some tricks from everyone. So that's why it's always nice, even if you're a seasoned crafter, you can always learn something from somebody. I always learn something new every time I'm on YouTube. Somebody always does something a little bit differently, and that really helps. Okay, so I think this side here is probably dry. You could run your bone folder over the spine a little bit, just straight down if you want it to, kind of get it going, but do it gently. And then I just like to take a ruler, I don't know why, and we're going to gently bend it up. And you're going to do that again over here. Bring your spine up and gently bend it over. And we're going to do the same thing here, because you'll be able to kind of see your lines where your spine is, and just gently run bone folder up and down. It just kind of gets the page ready to bend, I think, when you do it this way. But be very gentle about it or you'll push right through, and you don't want to do that. So I'm kind of holding firm on my spine itself with my ruler, and I'm just gently rocking it, bending this up, smoothing it on this side, and then I'll do the same thing here. Gently bending up my spine. And here comes my cat Sherlock, of course, because he knows I'm videoing. And there we go. We have our trifold cover completed here. Now, if you want to do your outside mat for the front page, we can definitely get that started. I'm just going to run my bone folder around here just to kind of smooth it out. But you see there's no cracking in my spine because I left enough space for the paper to bend so that it wouldn't crack. So for the cover of this one, I think I set those over here. I think this one I'm going to use the red check on the outside, and I measured that 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. And you want to try and center that as best you can. Sorry, I had to turn my chair around because I'm standing to do this, and my cat jumped up on my chair, and I thought the next step he's going to be on my desk. Hold on one second, guys, because he's definitely doing it. Okay, I just got him down. Okay. Same thing on the back cover. 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. And I noticed this one was supposed to be my front cover, but I guess it doesn't really matter because it's the same pattern. I like to do this right away, and then I know I have it completed. Gently run my bone folder over it. You can even open it up and just press on the inside. That way you won't bow your spine. Okay, so my spine pieces, for the 1 inch piece, you're going to do 7 7/8 by 7/8. That's for the 1 inch spine. This spine, if you remember, sorry, my cat knocked stuff down again. This spine, if you remember, was 1 1/4 by 7/8. So you're going to do 1 1/8 by 7/8. And this side, you're going to do 7 7/8 by 7/8. Okay? Same thing for the inside of your spine. Let me sit here a minute and get out my pages. Okay, same thing with the inside. You're going to want to do 7 7/8 by 7/8 on the 1 inch spine. I got to get out my cutter because I did not cut the right measurement for that one, and I just realized it. So we're going to do it together. Because the spine coverage is important. Okay, 7 7/8. And for the 1 1/4 inch spine, you're going to do 1 1/8. For the outside and the inside, 1 1/8. Different piece of paper for that one. 1 1/8. And 7/8. For some reason, I had the spines from my other album that I created, and we can go ahead and cover our spines on the inside. 7 7/8 by 7/8 for the 1 inch spine. And I do go along my edges of all my papers because I don't want any lifting. This is the 1 1/4 spine. 7 7/8 by 1 1/8. And you want to center your mat so you're nowhere near your spine fold where we bent it. Okay, let me just, same thing over here. It's going to be 7 7/8 by 1 1/8, and then your 1 inch spine, 7 7/8 by 7/8. I'm going to put those aside and we're going to move on. I don't need to do the outside spines because you guys know the measurements. Okay. Now, if you fold in the right side, we're going to mat this piece, and then we're going to create our pocket. This piece, 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. This is so cute. It has a little egg paper on it, or little eggs. Again, if I don't want to push down on this, I open it up and I press down on the inside, and that way it doesn't bow my chipboard. And then I'll just wipe off any excess glue. Now we're going to create, on like we did on this page here, we're going to create the bottom pocket. So we're going to put our album aside. You want to get out your scoreboard and cut yourself a piece that measures 8 7/8 by 3 1/2. And you're going to line it up, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the right side, flip it around, score a 1/2 inch on the left side, and then a 1/2 inch on one of the long edges. So we're just scoring at 3 sides. I'm going to fold up our score lines. And we're going to trim off our little corners, and I angle in a little bit and I snip right up to that score line, and I'll do the same thing on this side. Angle a little and cut that little corner off. You're going to fold your 2 sides in, add some glue to the bottom flap of each side, and just fold it up. Okay, so it should look like that. And then I forgot to tell you, but I really like to go in and just angle these as well. It's not necessary, it's just an option. But that way, when anybody's viewing anything from the top pocket, they won't notice that flap there. Okay, so we're going to mat our pocket, and this mat measures 7 7/8 by 2 7/8, and I see I'm off a little, so let me get out my trimmer. I'm off a little on a lot of this stuff. Oh, you know what? I did do 7 7/8. Let's go to 7 3/4 for the mat for your pocket. 7 3/4 by 2 7/8. Yeah, that looks much better. I actually had that written on my paper over here because I'm looking at it right now. Not this paper, my paper where I have all of my, I call it my recipe for my mini album, but for some reason I cut it 7 7/8. I must have that on the brain today with all the matting I'm doing. Okay. 7 3/4 by 2 7/8. Press that down. This is where I write out all of my measurements. And then when I do a tutorial, I try to write it on the back of every page so that I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder. Okay, so we're going to add glue to the edge of the flaps. So I like to go on the outside, inside, and the middle. And we're just going to line it up on the pattern paper. Take it right to the edge. Kind of stay away from your chipboard edge a little bit, but take it right to the edge of your pattern paper. I'm going to press that down, and then I am going to open it and push down from the inside. Okay, so there we have our pocket. Now we're going to work on this side. Before we mat the page, because this mat measures a little bit smaller, so before we mat it, we're going to want to do our flip pages like we did on this page here. So we're going to create these 4 flip pages, we're going to mat it, and then we're going to create our pocket. So you're going to need 4 flip pages that measure 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. You need 4 of those. Let me set this aside. Get out your scoreboard. And you're going to line them up at the 6 3/4 mark, and you're going to score at a 1/2 inch. You're going to do that to all 4 pieces. Fold your score line. And you're going to open up your album, and you're going to put one at the top and try and center it. But you're going to stay, you're not going to butt it up right against the chipboard edge here. You're going to stay like a 1/16 inch of space away from this side of the chipboard. Same thing on this side, 1/16 of an inch away. Your spine, where you have your score line, you're going to want to stay away from that and stay away from here. So we're going to start with your tab folded over. Okay, so we folded this up, put glue on your tab on this side. I'm actually going to start with my left side and try and have the same amount top and bottom. Doesn't really matter what side you start with. I'm just used to doing it this way. Now you want to leave this folded over, because when you put this one on, you want to make sure you're level with this one. If you flip this out and try and do it and then fold it back, it could get wonky on you. Okay, so I'm going to turn it this way, put glue on my flap, stay away from the score mark where your spine is. Make sure you're lining this up with this one here. So they're kind of laying directly on top of each other, and press it down. Open it up, push down, wipe off the excess glue, and we got those 2 done. Open these up, and we're going to do the top and the bottom pieces. Sorry, I just bumped my camera. I'm not used to having my camera arm, like, it's almost right up against my right side here. So make sure you try and stay away from the edge a little bit, like 1/16 of an inch. And then try and get this in the center. Push down, flap it back over, and do the same thing on the bottom. Sorry, my phone's going crazy. I'm making sure that I'm lined up with this one, staying away from the edge on the bottom here, and lining those 2 up. Okay, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to check my measurement. And yes, that is correct. Yay! Okay, so my mat is 7 7/8 across by 7 3/4 inches high. You want to stay away from your folds. Make sure you leave yourself enough room on either side. You could probably do 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. I think would work out better, but this worked out just as well. Let me get my rag here. Okay. So then when you go to mat these, the mats that I used were 4 by 6. Folded left, right, up, and down. But on this side, we want to put a pocket. So let's create our corner pocket. Put this aside. For my corner pockets, this works really well if you have double-sided paper. If you don't have double-sided paper, you can use the extra one that you cut off, the extra mat, for another pocket on another album. I did not have double-sided paper. Okay, so I'm just going to put my paper together so you can see. If you have double-sided, you're going to use one side for the mat for your pocket, and then you could flip it over and you can use the other side. This is one-sided, so I couldn't do that, but when I made the pockets for this album, I used the one side here and the other side here. So I ended up having enough to create 2 more pockets. If you don't have that, to create your pockets, you're going to need a piece that measures 7.5 by 7.5 square. Then your pattern paper square should measure 7 3/8 by 7 3/8. And we're going to be cutting the corner off so you end up with 2 mats for 2 pockets. Get out your cutter. And on your cut line, you're going to line up the bottom point to the top point, right on the cut line, and cut. Then you're going to line up this bottom edge, push this past your cut line to the 1-inch mark on this side, and cut off 1 inch. Flip this over and do the same thing. You're going to cut your pattern paper the same exact way. You're just going to do it a little bit smaller. You can also do, if you're not comfortable with 7 3/8, you could do 7 1/4 by 7 1/4, and that'll work out just as fine. So I'm going to do that to 2 pockets because we have 2 pockets in this album. And then, like I said, you would do that to your, you would line up your pattern paper, do the same thing, line it up, point to the 1-inch mark and trim, and this side, 1-inch mark past the cut line and trim. Same thing over here. So now we just created 2 pockets with 2 mats. Okay. And the measurements I gave you will leave a nice black edge all the way around. Now this one, I see it's a little too high, so I'm just gonna snip that off. And that looks good. And then this one for the left side, this is going to go on your left page, so you want to make sure. I am so sorry about that. I had charged my batteries before we started and they gave out on me. So anyway, you're going to end up with the 2 pockets. You just want to make sure this is for a right side page, so you want to make sure you mat it on the correct side, and then you're going to have to flip this over and mat it to create a left side pocket. So I'm going to mat this one right now. And hopefully when I splice this video together, nobody missed too much. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm really sorry about that. I used rechargeable batteries, but I couldn't believe that conked out on me already. I must need to get a new set. Okay. So I'm going to try and keep my eye on the camera now to make sure the batteries are going to last. And if they don't, I will stop the video again and put more batteries in. My hubby is making dinner tonight for us while I'm getting this filmed. He's such a sweetie pie. And I can smell it. He's making tacos. Ho ho. Okay, so I'm not going to use this left pocket because you could see my white Jelly Roll pen there. But I actually have an extra piece, and I'll make a left pocket later. Because that's how I roll. Okay. So let's get this opened. And we're going to put our pocket close to the edge. But you're still going to see a little bit. Don't go right to the edge of your paper. Because when you fold this over, it'll kind of bulk up a little. So I moved mine in just a little bit like I did on this one. This one I moved in pretty far, but I think it still looks super cute. I'm not going to move it in as far on this one. And all I'm going to do is put a line of glue on this edge and a line on the bottom. Lay it down. Use my rag. Okay, and we just created that pocket. So let me flip these back. Now we're going to work on the center page. The center page you can mat right away because we're just going to be doing a waterfall on this page. And that measures 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. Okay, and we're actually going to go ahead and you could mat this page as well, because all you're going to do is put a pocket on this one same way we did on that one. That's all I did for this page, but I am going to mat it same measurement, 7 7/8 by 7 7/8, and that's I got a pocket on the right. You guys can do, decorate your pages however you want. I'm just kind of showing you what I did for the recipe album. Oop, that shifted a little. That's why I love liquid glue. You could pick it back up without tearing anything. Okay. All right, center page. We are going to make our little flip waterfall. And what you're going to need is some pieces that measure 6 1/4 by 4 3/4. You're going to line them up in your scoreboard at the 4 3/4 mark, and you're going to score them at a 1/2 inch every one. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and a 1/2 inch. On this one, I'm not going to do every single one. I'm just going to show you how to basically put them together. And then you guys can do whatever you want down here. I created a pocket by using one of my cut-aparts. And I glued it on the top, this side, and the bottom. And I left this side unglued so that I could tuck in some photo mats. I also used a border punch to cover this, like when you fold these and you put this on, you're going to see this lip here. And I didn't really like that, so I just cut about a 1/2 inch, punched this out, and put that on. I should have put my pocket on the top, and I told you guys that in a previous video. But that's all I did down here on the bottom. You guys can decorate yours however you want. I'm just showing you the basic flip waterfall. Okay? Oh, and I'm sorry, I used, you can use as many as you want, but I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I used 7. And it took me pretty close down to here. And then you could do whatever, you could put like 2 photo mats under here and measure it so that when you close this you won't see anything. Probably a 3 by 4 or 3 by 4 high and a 4 by 3 on each side. And I did that in, okay, I'm giving you a sneak peek, guys. I did that in this one here. No, this one here. I did a waterfall on this page and I put 2 photo mats down here. So you could just do that. Just make sure your edge is underneath this. It just looks nicer that way if you do that. So that's your sneak peek, and I will be back with a video to show you the rest of that. But right now I'm going to show you how to line these up and make a waterfall. Okay, so they're all scored. You're going to get your center page here. Fold your score lines. And what we're going to end up doing, if you see this 1/2 inch and this 1/2 inch, we're going to butt them up against each other, gluing them this way. So, put some glue on that 1/2 inch mark. Stay away from the top edge here a little bit and try and center it on your mat. Take a look at the top here. Oh. That looks pretty good and centered. And flip it open and push this down. Same thing here. Fold this over. Put glue on the edge here. You're going to butt the top of this up against that 1/2 inch mark there. And you don't want to see, I'm going to put my head in the camera, I'm sorry. You don't want to see any pattern paper through here, okay? So make sure it's butt up against there. Put this down. Before you press it, make sure they line up good and that they line up really nice on each side this way, and then press down. I'm going to do one more. And you'll keep going for however many you think you can fit on the page. Flip this over, butt it right up against. Close it, make sure they line up on each side. Open it, make sure they line up on each side that way, and press down. And you'll continue that until you have, if you want to do what I did 7 mats. So I did 7 of these. And then underneath you could do 4x3 photos. Just make sure when you put them on, wherever your last page ends, that they don't really stick out underneath. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. You guys can decorate your albums however you want. I'm just showing you what I did. Okay, so we're going to pretend that's complete. And we're going to move on to the spine piece here. Which is this flip page here. So it has a 1/2 inch spine, if you can see it on this side. We're putting it on the spine. It opens up like this. You have a magnet closure here, and then you have your flip pages here. Underneath I did a belly band, and I have 2 mats here as well. And then I just close them like this. And flip that back up. So we're going to create this page right here. Let's set our album aside. Make sure my camera's still good. Yes, it is. I have my magnets right here, which I'll just put my clip there. Okay. For your pages that you're going to create for this, these are the flip pages. You're going to need 6 pieces that measure 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. You're going to line it up at the 6 3/4 mark, and you're going to score it 1/2 inch. This flip page, completely and totally inspired by Rosa Kelly. She showed me how to do that on a tutorial for her big album, and I absolutely loved it. If you guys have not seen any of Rosa Kelly's videos, you definitely want to head over and check her out. She does amazing tutorials, especially for that big one I showed you guys, Folio. It's a lot. I did an 8x10 Folio tutorial with her. I can actually post that below so you guys can head over and check it out. So you're going to fold all 6 of your pieces. And then once you have them folded over, you're going to take this 1/2 inch piece here, and you're going to add glue. And face this one facing you. They're all the 1/2 inch folds are facing you. You're going to line that up. Make sure the top is level and your sides are level, and you're going to just put them together. And then they're going to flip like this. The same thing with this one. Add glue to your 1/2 inch flap. Make sure the piece you put on, the flap is facing you. you're going to line them up, the flaps together. Make sure the sides are even and the top is flush. And open it up. Make sure that's pressed down real nice. Okay, so I've already done it to this side. I have my flap and all of my pieces are added together. This is going to be the top portion and this one's going to be the bottom. So when it lays like this, we're going to want to have a belly band, or we're going to have a band here, and we're going to put a magnet closure on it. The band that I used is 6 by 1.5 inches wide. I scored it at 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to fold those score lines. So it's going to look like that. And we are going to put it on the front, make sure it's centered, flip it over, and right on this 1/2 inch flap here, we're going to glue the 1/2 inch piece here. So I'm going to add some glue. And just line up the 1/2 inch piece. You do not want to glue this 1/4 inch piece here, because that is actually going to look like this. Okay, you have a 1/4 inch piece here so that when you add extra photos and stuff, it has some give and it's not completely flat against. So that's why you have that 1/4 inch section. So glue your 1/2 inch here, leave your 1/4 inch there, and then you have your closure piece. I'm going to add my magnet. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to add my magnets last. I think I'm going to make the actual page that's going to flip out. So for this page, you need 7 7/8 high by 6.5. You're going to line it up at the 6.5 mark, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch and again at 1 inch. You're going to fold your score lines. Open up your, oh, I think my batteries are going again, guys. Before I even start gluing this, I'm going to stop right here and add more. My batteries must not be charged. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have our piece that we scored. You're going to want to fold the first 1/2 inch over. The second 1/2 inch is actually going to be your lifted spine. We're going to take the first 1/2 inch piece and we're going to glue it down to the pattern paper on our spine. So just put glue on this first 1/2 inch score piece. And you're going to line up the corner with the bottom corner here of your pattern paper. And then you're going to press down. Okay, so this is covered. Fold up that score line and this folds down over it. Just like that. So I have a nice piece of pattern paper here. I definitely want to cover that 1/2 inch piece we just glued. That piece measures a little less than 1/2 inch by 7 7/8. So you want to go to the 1/2 inch mark and then just go a little bit less than 1/2 inch, and that way it won't hit your score line. And I'm going to run that from the top to the bottom there. Okay, so you have this pattern and this pattern on each side. Okay, now my photo mat for the inside piece is going to be a little bit smaller than the photo mat for the outside, but before you mat it, you're going to want to get out those pages you made. We're going to glue these the same way. Glue on the 1/2 inch piece. You want to stay away from the edge of the paper, but you want to try to center it. I'm going to put some white paper behind here so this shows up better, and you guys can, maybe not white, I have this piece here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, this piece is going to go down here, but you don't want to go directly on the edge. You want to move it up a little bit, but you want to make sure this is centered. Okay, glue that down, open it up, and press your flap down. Fold it back up. You're going to do the same thing to the top. Glue on this 1/2 inch piece. I'm going to move my camera down a little. I know my head's probably going to get in here. Bear with me. Stay away from your edge up here. Okay. And make sure you're lined up with the bottom piece that you put on and press down. And then I'm just going to run my bone folder on this side. So the mats that you're doing here, you're just going to close these every other one. So bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, and then your closure piece. The mats that I used for this measure 4 by 6. That's it. So for the mat on the inside here, my coffee mat, I'm going to make sure it fits real nice. That measures 7 5/8 high by 5 1/4 wide. Bear with me, guys, we're almost done. You are free to decorate these however you choose, but at least you kind of know how I put these together. And I gave you the important mat measurements. I mean, you can gladly measure yours however you like. Okay, so bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. These are covered by 4 by 6. And then your flat piece here. So the flat piece here, if you want to mat this on both, you're going to want to put your magnet on here, which I'll show you how to do. But if you want to mat this, that measures, I know I wrote that down, let's see, this is 1 1/2, and I think this is 6. Let me do a quick measurements. No, this ends up being 5 1/4. So I would do 5 1/8 by 1 and, is this 1 1/2? Yeah, 1 3/8. 1 3/8 by 5 1/8. That's going to be your mat piece on this side and this side as well, because you don't want to mat that 1/4 inch piece. And then to add magnets, if you've never added them before, I used to get my magnets on eBay, but holy moly, their prices really went up. So I'm just using what I have. I'll probably shop on Amazon. But my magnets are super strong and they're super thin. I think they're like 9/16 by 132. But you see how thin they are? What I do is I keep them together and I decide where I want to put it here. So, oh, am I in camera? Let me move this up. I'm going to add some glue here. I'm going to place my magnet down. And normally I would let that dry before I do the next step. But since my other magnet's already on top here, what I do is I put glue on it, close it up gently, just let it flop on there, and I'm going to push down, and I'll pick it back up. Right here, I've made my mark where my magnet should be. So I'm going to add glue there, pull off the magnet from the first magnet, flip it over, and glue it on. And then that way these two will meet perfectly once they're dry. If I put it together now, it's just going to rip it off. Okay, so that's it, guys. I think I walked you through everything. This page, oh, the front mat here, I did 5 3/8 by 7 3/4. So let me put this beige paper here so you guys can see. I did this cute cupcake paper. And then, like I said, I did a pocket on this left side page, but I wasn't happy with my pocket because you could see my Jelly Roll pen marks. So I'll end up creating a whole new pocket for that side. And just mat it up and push it down. And that's it. Besides my pocket, I'm going to continue. Oh, oh, I shouldn't have did that because they're, okay, good. Oh no, it did pull off. Darn. Let me re-glue that. Besides, I'm going to add more waterfalls here. I might do something a little different on the bottom this time than I did with the other one. We'll see how it goes. But that's it, guys. That's how I basically put this 8x8 album together. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks so much for bearing with me with the battery running out. I appreciate you guys so much. If you give them a try, let me know. If you make a video or a picture, I would love to see it. All right, take care, guys. Happy crafting.